and Nick Hamilton. So it's a night of Nicks. Nick Hamilton will stop by the show, and we'll get some thoughts with him on LeBron James' comments last night following the Lakers' victory against, I think, Portland. I think they beat. I don't remember. It doesn't really matter. It's early season NBA. It just doesn't. It doesn't really matter. See, 2 wrestling references in the first 3 minutes of the show. Thank you. Brian McDonald, who you just heard chime in, is our producer / engineer extraordinaire working on the program from Houston tonight. I'm in Palm Springs watching Thursday Night Football. I can't even explain. I'm so frazzled. Before the show started, normally I'm on time. I'm ready to go when the clock strikes 7:06 p.m. Pacific. And tonight, for some reason, at 7:04, I turned around and I was like, oh my God, it's 2 minutes until the show starts, and I don't have anything set up. The show is planned. I'm ready in that regard. But I wasn't sitting at my station. I wasn't doing anything. Weird. So anyway, we're watching Thursday Night Football. We'll keep tabs on that. I got some thoughts on Deshaun Watson to get to. Nick Ferguson joins us later in the hour. Whole bunch to do as we get started. It's the Cash In. It's a Thursday night on SportsMap Radio. Stay with us. How are you? Ross Tucker was great. I've known him for years, going back to my days at Sirius. Kenny Mayne was terrific. Kenny was fun. Yeah, Kenny was fun. Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah. He's kind of... Rolling along on this Thursday edition of the show. Good to be with you. Good to be hanging with my man Brian McDonald back in Houston as well. Got him for the next couple of nights producing and engineering. The old band is back together. Not at all. I already talked about it earlier in the week, and I gave all the platitudes in the world to the Astros for signing him, and they still might sign Yuri Gurriel. It's crazy. I mean, they're stacked. I mean, I'm not normally the guy that will crown a team. If you're going to crown them. I'm not, But there's no getting around it. They are so stacked right now. I mean, they're the best team in baseball before they even go to spring training. There's just it's undisputed as far as I'm concerned. As far as at least the American League. And when you look at them all around baseball, why are you making me start the show with the stupid Astros on December 1st? Go away. Yeah. No, you text me. It's not like you don't talk to me. And you have my phone number. You can reach me anytime you want. You could vent. You could be happy, whatever you want. Hit me up. I'd love to hear from you. Nobody else calls me. God, nobody wants to talk to me. All right. So let me start with Deshaun Watson. I'll do Jerry Jones in the next hour because that's when our Dallas audience is here, and they'll probably want to hear what I have to say about it, or they may not want to hear about what I have to say about it. Let me start with Deshaun Watson because he gets back on the field this week after serving a 12-week, what's basically a 12-week suspension. I mean, they call it 13 weeks, but it's a 12-game suspension. Or 11 games, whatever it is for the Browns at this point. It doesn't really matter. I think they're 4-7. So, and I'll do the live betting stuff on the Thursday night game coming up in the next segment. We'll talk some about that. But as it relates to Deshaun Watson, when I look at this situation, and I was just thinking about it tonight, I was sitting back and I was like, do I want to talk about it from the sexual misconduct side of it? Do I want to talk about it from the Cleveland Browns' negligence in terms of how they've dealt with this conversation? Deshaun Watson in terms of lack of contrition? I could kind of sum it up this way, though. There is, and I'm not one that is prone to hyperbole. I leave that to the doofuses on ESPN in the morning. I leave that to the doofuses on FS1 that want to scream at each other and all of that stuff. Although I think Shannon Sharp is sometimes pretty good. There is a 0.0000001 chance that this Deshaun Watson story ends out good. And what I mean by that is he is in a 0-win situation. There's no winning in this situation for Deshaun Watson. Think about this for a second. He's playing for an organization that hasn't won in decades. He's playing for an organization, where the fan base is almost apoplectic at this point. He's getting a ton of money that the only way he can justify or live up to the expectation on is if he wins a Super Bowl. And we all know that not this year, not next year, not the year after that, is there any scenario where that happens. So you're going to get the sugar high this weekend of Deshaun Watson. This weekend, and I don't even know if they're going to win, lose, if they're going to win, 17-10 because it's his first game back. I mean, the guy hasn't been on the field in forever. I don't know if it's just the sugar high of this week, and this is as good as it gets. And then it's all downhill from here for the Cleveland Browns. Because he's not going to win a Super Bowl in Cleveland, because nobody can win a Super Bowl in Cleveland, because it's Cleveland. I know, that sounds so simplistic. It sounds so unfair, but in your heart of hearts, I'm right. Here's what Cleveland has left on the schedule, by the way. for Deshaun Watson, who's basically walking in after a couple of weeks of sort of extended spring training. That's what we'd call it in baseball, where he gets to practice with the team. He gets the Texans this week. Probably you'd think they'll win that game. Although nobody knows what to expect from Deshaun Watson at this point. Then you've got the Bengals in Cincy, and Cincy's playing well. You've got the Ravens after that. Good luck. You've got the Saints, winnable. You've got the Commanders. I mean, at best, you're probably talking 7-10 for Cleveland this year, and that's not making the playoffs. So this year's done. And then just keep in mind, he's playing in a conference over the next several years that's loaded with good talent and good teams. And the thing I think about most in this is, and as much as, you can blame Watson and the things that he's done and his actions off the field and the naughty massages and coercing women into doing whatever, as much as we could get into all that, okay? Cleveland as an organization is as much to blame for what is about to ensue vis-a-vis the fact they decided to give him all this money. They've set him up to fail. Because the only way he can succeed is the one thing that will not happen in Cleveland, and that's the Browns actually winning at a level that makes this contract make sense. It never made sense. It was desperation. It was a Hail Mary by the Cleveland Browns. So this season's a lost cause. Jacoby Brissett's actually a pretty good quarterback. The only good thing that comes out of this year to me is, well, one, Nick Chubb is a phenomenal running back. We all know that. You feel bad that he's playing on a team that doesn't really win. But the one thing you think about that comes out of this year that's a positive for the Cleveland organization is Jacoby Brissett can play. And he's going to get an opportunity to play, hopefully somewhere else, and get out of that god-awful situation in Cleveland. Because that's what it is. It's a you-know-what show. Rhymes with spit. Right? You see? You like that? We could say a spit show. It's a spit show. Mm-hmm. I love Njoku. If he's healthy, I like Njoku a lot. Loved him from the day I saw him out of Miami. Love Njoku. But your point is well taken. They would have been better off, Brian. They would have been better off sucking this year and getting one of the top 3 picks and getting one of these other young quarterbacks who I would feel sorry for because they're going to Cleveland. And by the way, I can say that because I've spent considerable time in my life in Cleveland. They would have been able to go to Cleveland and, get at least one of these top 3 really top flight quarterbacks that could be there for 5 or 6 years that you can build around. But everybody wants to win now. And Deshaun Watson was the win now option for this organization. The only problem is they play in a conference. First of all, they're already behind the 8 ball this year. And look, maybe they come back next year with some of these guys and take another run at it and they can win some games. But even if I were to project to next season, are they better than Buffalo right now? No. Are they better than Cincinnati? Are they better than Cincinnati right now? No. Are they better than Miami right now? Questionable. Are they better than Baltimore right now? No. Are they better than Kansas City? No. So where are you? Even with Deshaun Watson, you're what? At best, the 5th or 6th best team? At best. Yeah. No, they're not. And like I said, at the end of the day, he's going to get paid, and that man going to get his money. He's going to get his bag. But, it's only a question of, how long is it going to be sustainable? I mean, like I said, he hadn't done anything to me. Lamar Jackson's in this situation right now. Where Deshaun Watson hadn't done enough to me to earn the kind of contract he got from Cleveland. And Lamar Jackson's in a similar situation to me where it all looks great and the regular season numbers are wonderful and all of that's great. But much like Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson's 1-2 in the postseason. And he's never won anything. He's a great regular season quarterback, but there's always going to be the question of whether he's a guy that you can win with in the postseason as a running, quote unquote, running quarterback. So Lamar Jackson's in a very similar situation that Deshaun Watson was in before Watson got this contract, minus obviously the sexual misconduct allegations. But And I can understand if you're Lamar Jackson why you'd be frustrated, because you're looking at Deshaun Watson, who's basically, from a playing standpoint, a carbon copy of you, who got all this money, and you're basically having to beg, borrow, and steal to try and get the contract you want from the Baltimore Ravens. So I can kind of understand why Lamar Jackson is frustrated. But as it relates to Deshaun Watson, I don't see it. And if somebody could tell me, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004, if you disagree with me, or even if you agree with me, I want you to try and describe to me why you think Deshaun Watson in Cleveland could be a winning situation. Give me a scenario where it justifies the contract and all the headaches. And I haven't even gotten into the PR headache that having Deshaun Watson is. Did you know some of his accusers, some of the people that accused him, that he settled with, they're going to be in the stadium this weekend in Houston. Yeah, they're coming out. I hope they hold up signs. It will be interesting. It will be very interesting. Yeah, I think they have to. I think they have to mention it, though. You have to do it. You have to do your. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see on Sunday. 1-800-224-2004 from anywhere in America. 800-224-2004. Tweet at the show at the back page. Live betting is a big part of what we do on the show. Thursday night football going on right now. Turn around, look at my TV. 17-7, Buffalo continues to lead New England. We'll come back, give you the live betting numbers on that. Nick Ferguson joins us in 15 minutes as well. We'll get some thoughts of the former NFL safety, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast. We have some talking to do because we had a conversation last week, and I don't think it looks good for Nick. We'll get into that as we continue. It's the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. What is it? What is it? Yeah. Oh, stop it. God, this is so bad. Yeah. Oh, my God. They can't. It's impossible to flex it. Well, I don't think we were surprised, were you? I like the wrinkle on Tuesday where he just totally double-crossed William Regal. I thought that was cool. And Regal sold it so good. That's what they said, but I don't know, though. I wonder. Because I've seen some conflicting stuff on that when I was reading it this morning. That there's some people who say yeah, some people say no, but maybe. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I love William Regal. He's so good. Yeah. Yeah, they did a good job with it. So Greg's working on the show last night, right? I didn't recognize the name and know that he was a host on the network. We go to break and he's like, do you need countdowns or anything like that? And I was like, just a 20 and a 10 is fine. And I go, I'm not, I literally said this. I go, I'm not like the rest of the hosts on this network that don't know how to hit the post at the end. And he starts laughing, and I'm like, so later on in the show, I'm like, so Greg, what do you do? What do you do at SportsMap, when you're not doing this? He goes, I host in the afternoon. Good to have you with us. Thursday Night Football. Let me tell you, Buffalo's up in this game 17-7 on New England, and it feels like it might as well be 37-7 because you've never felt like New England has had any chance to win. Even when they were up 7-3, you're like, all right, great, enjoy it for a minute. It's like the wrestling match where the no-name guy, like, oh, God, it's totally a squash match. It's totally a squash match. Back in like the days of WWF Superstars on like Sunday morning when they'd have those no-name guys that would fight, God. Yes, like some local kid would come in and get squashed by King Kong Bundy. Yeah, he'd get a couple of chops in, and then Bundy would just squash him with a splash. That's what this feels like right now. It feels like that kind of WWF Superstars on a Saturday morning. It's just bad. Oh my God, this is so bad. Yeah. Brian told me during the break, he goes, do you know what next week's game is? And I'm like, I can't think that far ahead. I was just saying to my husband before we came on the air tonight, I was like, this whole week has felt like a blur. Tomorrow's Friday already. And I'm like, I don't even know where the week went. It's scary. And I don't know if it's an age thing, if my brains are mashed potatoes or what. Buffalo just scored, by the way. You can put this baby to bed. 23-7 extra point pending. Oh, yeah, I'm way ahead of you, dude. We've had this conversation before where I'm way ahead of you. I don't know why your Prime Video is so far behind. Are you watching like Prime Minus? Is there like a free version that you're getting somewhere? Great, you're the guy. They're always targeting somebody. So, to me, see, I forgot. The week is such a blur. So you were saying next Thursday night is the Rams and the Raiders. Oh my God, poor Al Mike. The only good news is that game in LA. All right. Oh my God. And I mean, you think about the it's in LA. All right. So the only upside for Al Michaels is he could take an Uber to the game. That's the good news for Al Michaels. He could take an Uber to the game. In 10 minutes, Nick Ferguson will join us. He is the host of the Touchdown Denver podcast, former NFL safety. We'll get some thoughts with him around the NFL. I told him Baltimore. I told him Minnesota. And see? Gotta listen to us. Ferguson's got to come on and take some heat tonight. I also want to ask him about because he has a Heisman vote. I don't know how Nick Ferguson got a Heisman vote. I love the guy to death, but I don't know how Nick Ferguson got a Heisman vote, but he has one. You just did. There's a lot of random people, but not Nick Ferguson. No, I don't know either, but they do. So I want to ask him about his Heisman vote. By the way, if you want to talk about live betting on the Thursday night game, which tonight it feels kind of a waste, but Buffalo leads New England 24-7. If you took the 14:31 to go fourth quarter, if you took the Patriots on the live money line right now, I'll give you a guess. It's plus 3,000. So put down $100. If the Patriots pull off the miracle comeback, there you go. See, you weren't doing the show 2 nights ago, Brian, but we had a moment. We had a real moment. Late third quarter, it was Clippers minus Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in Portland, down 18, like 2 minutes left in the third quarter. And I went on this long rant about this is what I mean about like the best value bets, because the Clippers, down 18 late third quarter, were going off at plus 1,500, meaning you put $100 down, you win $1,500. Put $10 down, you win $150. And I said, these are the value bets you got to go grab because you know there's going to be a run in this game. There always is. There's no Damian Lillard for Portland. Clippers playing, with a MASH squad. They're going to make a run in this game. They wound up winning. But I didn't tell people to make the bet like I do. I wasn't definitive. I just said, these are the value bets that live betting is made for. And it is. I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, a businessman that I was talking to on the phone, who knows a lot about sports betting. And we were talking about the two biggest things that are going to make sports betting really pop. It isn't the old days of the betting slips and here before the game, you go and put in your slip and, so-and-so minus 7 just before kickoff and you're making picks. It's two things. It's live betting. And the other one that this person brought up that I was talking about, it's futures betting. Betting before the season that Houston's going to win more or less than 92 games. Or, Houston's going to win the AL West, something like that. It is, because it's like an investment over the course of the entire season. It's like an investment that you have that you can watch over the entire season and get a sense as to whether or not it's it's something that can win or not. I think it's cool. I'm a huge fan of huge fan of futures betting. I don't do enough of it. I may change that this year though. Really love the futures betting. So Patriots have the football back. They trail 24-7. In Foxborough. They have never looked like they were in this game. This game's had no buzz tonight. The fans aren't into it. You can just tell, even Patriot fans have kind of given up in terms of the idea of this team actually accomplishing anything. They got the early touchdown. Yay, we got our kicks in. But that's it. I mean, yeah. I was trying to decide if I like the old school uniforms or not. I'm not. Yeah, I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure if I like them or not. I grew up with those, so I'm not sure. Not sure if I'm that keen on them. Nick Ferguson joins us in a couple minutes. We'll talk some NFL with him, get some thoughts on the Broncos situation, and there's plenty to talk about from there. That's coming up as we continue. Keep an eye on Thursday Night Football. A whole bunch more. Glad to have you with us on this Thursday edition of The Cash In. I'm Jason Page. You're listening to SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. I go bathroom.
Hello? Hello?
Yo!
What's going on, man?
Just living the dream, my man. Told you Minnesota was frauds.
You told me they were frauds.
Told you they were frauds.
Yeah, whatever.
They're frauds.
They won last week.
Frauds. Baltimore's frauds. They're all frauds.
Well, someone's got to be the real deal.
All right, hold on. We continue on this Wednesday edition of the show. Still to come later in the program, we'll do our early peek ahead at the lines for this week in the NFL, including the Thursday night game. And speaking of the NFL, let's talk about it now with Ross Tucker. He's the host of the Ross Tucker podcast. You can also hear him on Westwood One, their NFL broadcast. He does college. Good to have you with us on this Thursday edition of the show. I am Jason Page. I'd say this guy is one of my favorite guys we bring on the show every week. And that's not just like empty rhetoric. He knows I love him. I was just trash talking him a little before we came on to start the segment. He is the one and only Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast, who joins us on the show. I said Baltimore is frauds, and they are. They cannot. How am I supposed to take a team seriously in the postseason when they can't even? Four times this year they've blown fourth quarter leads.
Well, I'll tell you this. The problem with Baltimore is the fact that they cannot finish. And they're a very talented team offensively. Defensively, maybe not so much, but it's about finishing, ball games. And it is demoralizing. When you know that you have a lead and then all of a sudden you blow that lead in the fourth quarter, the third quarter, because somehow it's due to lack of production, focus, or play calling. But this still is a playoff caliber Baltimore Ravens team. Now, we're not saying as though they're a number one seed, but they should be a team that's able to get into the playoffs and make some noise.
Yeah, I'm wondering now if they win that division, since he's coming on strong and starting to play some good football too. I want to get your thoughts on this Denver situation, because a lot's happened since we last talked. Obviously, the team just keeps losing. You get the sense at this point that Nathaniel Hackett's probably lost some of this team, but you also have to wonder now with these reports about Russell Wilson. Sierra throws a birthday party, invites the whole team, only half of it shows up. I mean, is that uncommon? I mean, would literally the entire team show up for a quarterback's birthday party? Am I nuts?
It's utterly ridiculous. And to think that individuals, both locally and nationally, are grasping for straws at any and everything that they can kind of get their hands off as a way to kind of break this team apart. But no, when in any given party that's thrown as far as if it's known or even if it's a surprise, the chances that every single player on that team is going to arrive, that's a fallacy. They're not. When I played for the Denver Broncos, Jay Plummer had a party at his house. I didn't go. I didn't go because I didn't like Jake Plummer. It's just I didn't feel like driving at night. So I decided to stay home, wished him a happy birthday at practice, but it's not a big deal. But when you're losing games and you're a team like Broncos where the expectations were so high with the acquisition of Russell Wilson, then everyone is going to, take shots at you. Everyone wants their pound of flesh. And first it was, well, during the bye week, Russ is in Cabo. What is he doing in Cabo? The team isn't doing well. But now it's, only half his teammates came to his birthday party. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, there are 60 players on the Broncos team. That means maybe 30, 35 guys came. I call that a great turnout.
I do too, but tell the truth. You and Snake weren't buddies, huh? That's why you didn't go. You didn't like Snake. Come on, tell the truth. You didn't like Snake, so that's why you didn't go. It's all right. I won't tell him.
No, Snake is my guy, but I didn't feel like going out that night. I wanted to stay home. I wanted to study my play. So hey, I mean, don't hold that against me. I love him like he a brother.
All right. So, I mean, at this point for Denver, with what we've watched with this team and how this whole thing is sort of disintegrated, I'll still go back and say, by the way, if Nathaniel Hackett manages game number 1 and that Russell Wilson, the decision to basically go for a 1,000,000-yard kick instead of letting Russell Wilson try to win the game a little bit with his arm there, I still say this entire season may have wound up different if they had found a way to win that game. I still will believe that thing set the tone for how this whole thing has gone the rest of the way. Am I nuts?
No, you're not nuts. And it's not just that the first game of the season. I know the Broncos have taken a lot of shots for not scoring inside the red zone. And this offense at times have stalled, especially in the third quarter coming out of halftime. But they've had, they've shown their ability to move the ball down the field on most of the defensive units that they played thus far this season, but there's always some kind of mishap. Someone jumps offside, someone, gets beat on the block, there's a batted pass, there's a penalty that negates, a touchdown and takes it off the board. Let's look at this past Sunday against the Carolina Panthers. The Broncos are in scoring position. They're like on the 5-yard line. There's a run play off to the right side to Latavius Murray. Maybe he gets down to the 1-inch line. Maybe he punches it in. Greg Dulcich is beat in the inside, and also Eric Salbert on the opposite side where the ball is going to. He's beaten, and he's beaten by, I think it was Burns, right? Brian Burns beats him in the inside, and they're able to stop Latavius Murray short of the goal line. Those were the type of disastrous plays. We just talked about Baltimore and their inability to finish. If there was ever a stat in the NFL that we needed, was the teams that showed the highest percentage of finishing drives and finishing games. And if that was the case, the Broncos would be 1 and the Baltimore Ravens would be 2. And guess what? They play each other on Sunday.
It's great. Nick Ferguson, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast, is our guest on the Cash. And in our 2-for-1 tonight, SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. Let me ask you something. I'm going to talk more at length about this next hour and with Nick Hamilton, who's joining us from Los Angeles, because LeBron James talked about it. From a player standpoint, and I don't know if you ever had to deal with something of this magnitude. So the answer, you may not even be able to give the cogent answer you would want to give. But does something like this Jerry Jones thing, does this permeate the locker room in any way? This story about him when he was 14 years old in a crowd, especially in a locker room where you're talking about a largely black presence in that locker room. Are you able to kind of articulate whether or not something like that permeates a locker room?
Yeah, it does, because we're living in different times. Like when I played, there were certain things that were considered to be off limits or out of bounds that, we didn't really talk about. We might have talked about outside the locker room, but inside the locker room collectively, we didn't. But this is a different day and age. Everyone has a cell phone. Social media runs rampant. Everyone wants their 15 seconds of fame. And then looking at the situation with Kyrie, no matter what side of the fence that you stand on, what LeBron was basically saying, how is it okay for the media to come out and really talk about what happened with Kyrie and just really blow it up? But with the Jerry Jones thing, not so much. So I understand what LeBron was trying to get across, and he realizes that he has a platform. And let's be totally honest. When you look at the NFL and the NBA, those guys have guaranteed contracts. They make more money, and they're perceived to be more high-profile players than that of the NFL players. And, oh, by the way, that they have a little more say-so in their league than players have in NFL. So a lot of individuals looking at LeBron James, fair or not, to kind of carry, that Bill Russell torch, that Jim Brown torch of saying, okay, if there's something that's happening wrong and properly in society, we want our African-American athletes to stand up, because if you guys don't stand up, then everyone's just kind of going to breeze over it. So I thought it was very interesting that LeBron decided to speak out about that and ask the media, hey, how come you guys are not asking me a question about this when you ask me a question about that? So it does raise a interesting conversation, and I'm sure, we're not the only ones having this conversation or talking about the topic.
You see Aaron Rodgers in the news that he's probably going to play this week. He's dealing with a whole bunch of injuries, but says he's open to the idea of, Jordan Love, if this team is eliminated from playoff contention, essentially, which a loss this week basically does. I mean, they're basically out of it now, but it's a lot more harder to make the argument from a math standpoint. Math does matter. If they lose this week and Aaron Rodgers says, you know what, I'm open to the idea of Jordan Love, playing for the rest of the season. How did that strike you? For a guy like Rodgers, who's always like, I'm a gamer, I want to play. And I'm literally the day before he had just said to Pat McAfee, if I can play, if I'm healthy, I want to play. What did you make of that?
Well, for me, he is a gamer, and regardless of what you think about Aaron Rodgers as a person, he's one hell of a player. And don't forget, he once upon a time, not too long ago, he said to the Chicago Bears fans that I own you. So he wants to play in the game where he can play against the Chicago Bears team that's kind of beat up on both sides of the ball and put up those numbers and utter that same thing. But let's be totally honest. Jordan Love will never get an opportunity to play in Green Bay as long as Aaron Rodgers is there. And watching him on that first drive, I was like, wow. I mean, it would be great for Matt LaFleur to tell Aaron Rodgers, hey, listen, we want to get a chance to look at this kid that's not a preseason action, but live action, so we can really determine if he has the goods or not. But Aaron being Aaron, hey, he's like, look, man, I'm playing. Now, we still have yet to see if he's going to play, but, in the idea of knowing Aaron Rodgers and the type of player that he is, if he can go out there and play and beat up on the Chicago Bears team, he wants to be in a uniform.
Talking with Nick Ferguson, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast. Didn't you tell me at the beginning of the year, you got a Heisman vote?
Yes, I do.
Who are you voting for?
I can't tell you that.
What do you mean? Of course you can tell me that. It's just you and me talking.
No, it's not. It's me, you, and everyone else that's listening. See? Come on now. Come on, Jason. I mean, I love having my Heisman vote. Here's what I can tell you.
Okay.
Someone's going to win.
Look at you. Funny McFunny, man. Look at you. What do you, when you look at the college football playoff right now, I don't ever really talk to you about college football, but you have a Heisman vote, so I know you're following it. When you look at the playoff right now, how surprised are you, based on where we were when the first four came out, that we're in a spot now where USC is in the top four?
Well, I love it, man. It just kind of reminds me of throwback football when teams like Nebraska, USC, Georgia, Florida, all those teams were in the conversation. And it's been a while, let's be totally honest, whether you like Pac-12 football or not. It's been a while since USC has been mentioned, but it says a lot about Caleb Williams, but more importantly, about Lincoln Riley. Everything that USC did to acquire him from Oklahoma, it's actually paying off. And it's starting to look like what USC looked like when Pete Carroll was there, when Snoop Dogg and every Hollywood star was on the sideline. So USC football is now coming back. And as a football fan, I like to see that. Now, here's my only question. There's a big game, between USC and Utah, and USC already lost to Utah earlier in the season, giving them that one loss. What happens if USC were to lose? Now we're talking about, Georgia and all that conversation, Alabama and two SEC schools getting in. For me, I don't subscribe to that idea that, hey, the SEC is the best conference in college football, and even a two-loss SEC team should be in there over a one-loss team from another conference. I don't subscribe to that because I don't think it's fair, right? You lost, you have two losses, they have one, they should get in. And a couple of years ago, TCU, they were left out. But now I'm hoping that TCU can be the Cincinnati Bearcats of this season, go undefeated and get into the contest and actually do well, right? I want to see those teams do well because I'm just tired of this Southeastern Conference narrative that, hey, they're just one step below the NFL. But when you really think about what the SEC is, Jason, it's only two teams, Georgia and Alabama. Who else? Because LSU had their chance, but they blew it when they lost to Texas A&M.
It's true.
Now, could they mess things up for Georgia when they play them in the SEC championship? I would love, as a Georgia Tech guy, I would love to see that.
I'm out of time. I wanted to ask you about Deion Sanders. I'll have to wait. Oh, well. That is Nick Ferguson, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast from Georgia Tech. Always good to talk. Always good to talk to you, my man. I'm mad you wouldn't make news on the show and tell me who your Heisman vote was, but I'll forgive you and you can come on anytime.
I told you someone's going to win. Right? I did tell you that.
Love you, Nick. Be well, man.
All right, you too.
All right, we'll come back, wrap up the hour next. He's funny. Someone's going to win. Yeah. It'd be bigger if it wasn't true. My dog is in a mood tonight. My husband went grocery shopping, so the dog is not happy. He's kind of anxious and sitting there just looking very, very grouchy. Yeah, he's just not having it. I think he does like him more, which is amazing considering I'm the one that's been with him for literally the last 10 years. It could be. It could be. I just sent you a picture of the look he's giving. He's literally just sitting on the couch like, dude, what is this? I actually sent my, it's going to sound so sexist or chauvinistic. Not sexist because we're both males, but chauvinistic for sure. You see that look? I told my husband, I'm like, you got to go out. I'm out of Diet Coke. I'm out of my Coke coffee drinks with the vanilla in them. I'm like, I was like, I need some beverage replenishment here. We gotta go. Yeah, I can't do the show without this stuff. These are my supplies. It's like it's as important as the microphone. It's like, let's go. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, God almighty. I could do him chapter and friggin' verse. SOS. Dude, I've missed you so much. Oh, you have no idea. I've missed having you on here. It's all over but the shouting. All over but the shouting. The Patriots trail 24-7 with the football and about 3:23 left in the game. The only thing that was interesting was the Patriots were seeing right now they are still plus 16.5, which literally up until a second ago was up on the screen. I would have grabbed it in a second because, plus 16.5, you could get a garbage touchdown here late. It's going to have to be a touchdown because field goal is not going to do any good. But hold on, let me see something here. Hold on. Oh, the Patriots are in the red zone. So this is crazy. Patriots are in the red zone down 24-7, and the line is still 16.5. Seems kind of nuts, doesn't it? I would have thought yeah. And did they just hit a touchdown? They just got one? No, it was a drop ball in the end zone, but there was a flag on the play. But interesting. Let's see, and this is why I keep saying this. Live betting's where you can get it because it's all an algorithm. It's not a human. So there's just always going to be opportunities to beat the algorithm. Like I said, I had an hour-long conversation with somebody yesterday via Zoom on this exact topic. And this is somebody who's really knowledgeable and experienced in gambling. And they're like, you're right. The place to kill it is live betting. All right, another hour of the cash-in is right around the corner. If the Jerry Jones topic makes you queasy, get ready to get queasy. We're talking about it next. Cash-in, SportsMap Radio. I haven't talked about the Jones story, so this will be the first time I've addressed it. All right. Oh, boy. Oh, my God. Woo-wee. Yo. You still there? No, not back. So what were you saying? What was going on over there? Getting the field goal. So 24-10, you're a winner. Thank you. Have a good night. Yeah, it had to be. Yes. Well, then because they were so deep, once they got it inside the 10, the number went down to 10.5 because the assumption was, all right, now you're betting on them just to get the touchdown. But even when they had the ball around the 23, that if a human is setting that line at that point, you would think that would be where you would make it 10.5, even if the ball is there. And then they got pushed back, and they wound up opting for the field goal because they need 3 scores anyway. So that's what you get. I think the onside kick failed, if I'm not mistaken. So it's Buffalo football. Yeah, the best way I could describe. I was thinking about Josh Allen tonight. He had a turnover late in the first half. It was 17-7 Buffalo. They were about to put the game away, and he threw a touchdown that got called back for an offensive holding call. 60-yard bomb he threw. But then he fumbled the ball, and the Patriots got it back. It was 17-7 at the half. Nick Folk missed a field goal. And I have a comparison that I want to make with Josh Allen when we come back on the other side. I also got to talk about Jerry Jones. We'll do that too. The Cash In, hour number 2 on SportsMap Radio. Yeah, well, like I said, I have the best comparison, and I'm sure people have probably said this. I can't be the only one. I don't listen to a lot of other sports talk because I think a lot of it's garbage, to be honest. With all due respect to other people that are on this network or on other networks. No, it's not. It's just so much of it is the same. It's guys trying to be loud and make noise and create a viral moment or something like that. And I've been there and done all that, and I'm 28 years in the game, so I don't really care. Plus, the biggest reason I don't listen, honestly, is I don't want my opinions to be skewed by what somebody else is saying. So I have my own thoughts, my own train of thought, my own mind. And nobody could say, well, he rips that from another show. 'Cause I don't listen to other shows. I really don't. I might watch a little bit of SportsCenter in the morning just to get some news, even though that's become kind of opinion oriented. But and Colin Cowherd, is somebody that I've known for years and I like him, but even that stuff, and Dan Patrick and all these other guys that are out there, I just don't bother with it. Because a lot of us are all saying the same things anyway. We're just saying it in different ways, different volume levels of entertainment, that whole thing. So I watched Josh Allen And I was watching them talk tonight about, I think he's got like 18 turnovers this year, like 14 interceptions, 4 lost fumbles or 5 lost fumbles, something like that. People are like, well, it's going to hold him back from winning a Super Bowl. No, it's not. I'll give you one name, and it's the guy that he reminds me of in that regard. Now, again, he can run, and this guy couldn't. But in terms of that gunslinger mentality, that sometimes it's going to cost you, and you might see a turnover here and there, he's Brett Favre. He's got a cannon for an arm. You know, he's got an absolute rocket for an arm. He could throw the ball a mile. He has zero fear of putting a ball in a tight window. The only difference is he can run, and it obviously makes him a bigger threat. But in terms of the turnover numbers, like I was looking at Brett Favre's turnover numbers, we're talking about Hall of Fame quarterback, Super Bowl winner, all of that good stuff. And you look at Brett Favre, he used to turn it over a ton. All-time interceptions. Yeah. Yes. That's exactly what I was thinking of when I was watching. I was like, you know what? One of the most prolific quarterbacks of all time is also the leader in interceptions. So why do you see? Oh, because of the story I told? Is that what you're referring to? What? Oh, Jenny Sterner. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that wasn't very good. I was already ready to get into one controversial story. Don't make me go back to another. So, all right. I want to prepare myself and take a breath before I get into this story, because we're on in Dallas. As I've talked about often, one of our affiliates is 97.1 FM, The Freak in Dallas, and it's kind of a different take on sports talk. It's kind of man talk. And they do some really fun things down there. I've actually listened in a few times, and I'm honored to the fact that they put our show on there as they launched and became this new format. 97.1 The Freak. So I don't know how much, because I haven't listened in the last few days, I don't know how much they've talked about the Jerry Jones story and in what context they've talked about it. Some stations just decide to avoid this stuff altogether. Some stations decide, they want to dive, neck deep into it. Just depends on where you are. But I've avoided it for the last week. I certainly could have discussed it. I've had ample opportunity. I get 3 hours every night. Part of the reason I stayed away from it was there's the initial story that comes out. Was it USA Today or the Washington Post? One of their reporters went and did a story and found this picture of Jerry Jones when he was 14 years old, where you had a few black students trying to get into a school with all white kids. The white kids are there, and they're keeping them from coming in. And Jerry Jones is 3 or 4 deep in the crowd as a 14-year-old looking on. And the second I saw the story, I'm like, I know I'm going to have to talk about this. I know I'm going to have to get into it, which I kind of dread, because it's not the reason I got into doing sports radio, was to talk about this stuff. But at the same time, I have an obligation to make my opinions known. I have a platform, and I'm proud of that, and I don't have a problem getting into them. It was another one of, after we just got done with the Kyrie stuff, oh boy, we got another thing to talk about. But I had kind of stayed away from it because I wanted to see the reaction after the story so that I had a fuller context with which to discuss it. And it was Jones. It was the picture of Jones. Then there was some reaction. The Stephen A. Smiths of the world who decided to suck up to Jerry and say, well, Jerry, this shouldn't be held against him. He was 14 years old, blah, 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 blah. I love Jerry. And then and by the way, this is the same Stephen A. Smith, who you can't take seriously anything he says, because he admitted on TV when him and Mad Dog were screaming at each other that it's purely for entertainment purposes. So you don't even know what's entertainment and what's him actually giving a true opinion, because the guy's a fraud. Now there you could say, do a gunshot effect there, McDonald. Then we could say shots fired. So I wanted to let the sentiment play out and see what a bunch of different people were saying. Not because it was going to change my opinion on the matter. I already knew what I felt about it. But I wanted to see sort of how Jerry responded. Then you had Jerry Jones come out and say, his response to it, I thought missed the mark. I thought it was tone deaf. But again, Go talk to most 80-year-old Americans who grew up in a different time as us, and a lot of what they say is tone deaf. So I can't even just talk about that aspect of it and say, well, he's tone deaf and blah, blah, blah. Then LeBron James came out last night not because he was asked about the subject surrounding Jerry Jones, but because he wasn't asked about Jerry Jones. So after the game last night, LeBron James, sitting at the podium after a Lakers win, took an opportunity just before the end of his press conference to bring up the fact that he had not been asked a single question. After being asked all these questions about Kyrie Irving endlessly, LeBron James basically got up at the podium last night and said, well, why wasn't I asked anything with regard to the Jerry Jones story? You all asked me about Kyrie every day. Why didn't you ask me anything about Jerry Jones? Now, some people might say it's because you played with Kyrie. Kyrie's in the same league as you. But LeBron wasn't having it, and he made sure to hold the media to account. Take a listen.
I got one question for you guys before you guys leave. I was thinking when I was on my way over here, I was wondering why I haven't gotten a question from you guys about the Jerry Jones photo. But when the Kyrie thing was going on, you guys were quick to ask us questions about that.
Okay.
Hold on. And I don't even want you guys to say nothing. When I watched Kyrie talk and he says, I know who I am, but I want to keep the same energy when we're talking about my people and the things that we've been through. And that Jerry Jones photo is one of those moments that our people, black people, have been through in America. And I feel like as a black man, as a black athlete, as someone with power and a platform, when we do something wrong or something that people don't agree with, it's on every single tabloid, every single news coverage. It's on the bottom ticker. It's asked about every single day. But it seems like to me that the whole Jerry Jones situation photo, and I know it was years and years ago and we all make mistakes, I get it. But it seemed like it's just been buried under like, oh, it happened. Okay, we just move on. And I was just kind of disappointed that I haven't received that question from you guys. Appreciate it.
Wow. And mic drop and walk away. Now let me take this on the LeBron side of this, and then I'll take a breath. We'll take a quick break, and then I'll talk about it from the Jerry Jones side. And if you guys want to weigh in on it, 1-800-224-2004. Bring something intelligent, articulate to say. I don't need any meatheads on this kind of call. 1-800-224-2004. Because I need nuanced viewpoints on this. That's why Nick Hamilton's going to join me coming up in 18 minutes from Sirius XM, who's in LA and has a great point of view on this sort of stuff. But from the LeBron perspective, let me tackle that first, to use a football metaphor. I respect the fact that LeBron brought this up. I'd respect it more if he weren't completely silent when it comes to China. See, I can look at both sides of this and all sides of it because I don't have a dog in the fight. LeBron saying he wants to talk about this because everybody brought up Kyrie. And if you want to be that guy, LeBron, if you want to be that larger-than-life figure in sports that transcends sports, the social commentary, political commentary, social justice, all of that, you still have to be held to account for the fact that you play for a league that is in bed with China. And you needn't do anything more than go and look at the headlines from that part of the world to understand why. Well, then somebody should ask you about China. If you want to be the guy that answers all these social justice questions, whether they touch the NBA or not, Well, then I want to hear your opinion on China, and be damned the consequences if the NBA gets pissed off, or if the Chinese government pulls out of their deal with the NBA, or stops showing your games in the NBA, or stops selling your sneakers in the NBA, or doesn't want you to appear in China. I don't care. If you want to answer these questions, then answer all of them. And talk about all of them. And take the time with your platform, because you have a responsibility with your platform, to talk about that too. Because to me, LeBron wants it both ways. He's got his things he wants to talk about and push, but then he's got the things where he's completely silent when it comes to China. And that's impacting the total other side of the world, but it's a part of the NBA universe. Trust me, I've been to that part of the world. They love their NBA basketball. His voice matters. So lend your voice to that issue. But he doesn't. Because it's not convenient for him. It would touch him too much. It might get into his wallet too much. It might damage his relationship with the NBA too much. Whatever it may be. So as far as I'm concerned with LeBron, I respect his point of view in saying to the media, why haven't you asked me about this? But then we might as well ask you about everything. Like I said, China. I want to hear your opinion on it. Come on. Got the Uyghurs over there being persecuted. They're cleansing the country. It's a genocide. I don't hear anything from LeBron on that. We don't care. Your games are on over there. Your voice is heard over there. Of course, it might not be heard if you say something bad about China. I'm just saying. I'll get to the Jerry Jones side of this on the other side, and you guys can weigh in. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. I'll give you my take on the Jerry Jones aspect of this. And it's fact-based. I'm not giving you... It's an opinion completely based in fact. I'll give it to you next on the Cash In SportsMap Radio. Okay. Did you write him in my thing? Okay, thank you. What? Gotcha. Okay. All right, Nick Hamilton coming up in 11 minutes from SiriusXM, Nightcast Media in L.A., coming off the comments from LeBron last night. Not necessarily, and the funny thing was, he wasn't even making a statement on Jerry Jones per se. He was making a statement on the fact that nobody asked him, and he was offended by the fact he wasn't asked about Jerry Jones because of how much he was asked about Kyrie Irving, essentially pushing the idea that there's a double standard. And I don't disagree with him. But like I said, if you're going to talk about that, then I want to hear you talk about China. Plain and simple. You can't have it both ways. All right, I'll get to the calls in a second. If you're on hold, don't move. Here's how I feel as it relates to the Jerry Jones side of this. I'm not judging Jerry Jones based on the fact that he was a 14-year-old in this photo at this particular time in American history, 4 deep in a crowd, watching a bunch of fellow students, football players on his high school team, keep some black kids from trying to get into an all-white school. I'm not judging him for that. But it's another piece to a puzzle. It's, we get peepholes into people's lives. I say this all the time. Life is filled with peepholes into the lives of celebrities, athletes, all this. For years, Brett Favre was held up on a pedestal as this all-American, the Wrangler guy. And we all thought we knew him. And then all of a sudden you had the Jenny Sterner story. And then you had the pill popping story. And then you had this story now where he's trying to take money from poor Mississippians and put it into his own coffers or coffers of interests that matter to him. And again, the more you learn about people, the larger the peephole gets, you kind of start to cringe a little bit. And as somebody who's spent 28 years covering people from all sorts of things, news, sports, all these things, I'm privy sometimes to more information than most. So when people ask me, what's my favorite thing about sports, stuff like that, sometimes I'm like, you know what? When you know too much, you kind of lose some of the enjoyment for sports. So the way I look at the Jerry Jones thing is this. And look, I get that we're on in Dallas and some people are going to say that, people in Dallas are going to be turned off by what I'm about to say. There is a fact pattern here when it comes to Jerry Jones that when you put it all together would make you want to believe he is at the very least insensitive towards the African-American community, towards the black community. Whether it's the fact that he's in 30 years never hired a black head coach, whether it's the fact that during the Colin Kaepernick situation, he basically, did this sort of phony looking, thing where he held hands and surrounded himself with guys that were, the players on the Cowboys, but then at the same time was saying, if anybody took a knee on my team, I'd kick their ass off the team. There's, and I think he's only hired like 4 black assistants even over the course of his entire tenure. So there is at the very least an insensitivity here. And when you look at his answer yesterday, or a couple of days ago, sorry, it wasn't yesterday, but a few days ago, and Jerry Jones is basically saying, well, I'm bitter about a lot of stuff. I mean, this was his answer. Asked whether he understands that many black Americans who grew up during the civil rights era remain bitter about the events of the time. Jones turned defensive, this story on Yahoo says. I want to read this one quote. And if this doesn't show an insensitivity towards the story and a tone deafness, then I don't know what will. Whether you're a Cowboys fan or not, try to clear your mind. Try to look at it objectively. He says, hey, I'm bitter about a lot of stuff. I'm bitter about a lot of stuff. I've got a lot of first cousins and cousins who have had their ass kicked. We're all bitter about a lot of things. What I'm talking about is how we approach things. It's who you know, okay? It's not the X's and O's. It's who you know. The who you know line goes back to an explanation Jones provided to the Washington Post regarding his failure to hire a black head coach in 33 years owning the Cowboys. The mindset actually bolsters the reality that NFL owners are more comfortable in terms of those that they can relate to, that it's life experiences and personal family interactions and connections and things like that. So it's who you know is sort of this line that he dropped years ago, and then he dropped it again in this conversation. Jones followed that up by saying, "You think Jimmy Johnson would have been coaching the Cowboys had I not known him and considered him a friend? Barry Switzer? Hell no. That's who you go. By the way, look who they hired on their staff. Look who they hired. They hired who they knew and they'd been with for years and years and years." So he's basically just saying, I'm just playing along with the system. That's how I do it. But to me, and again, I'm not going to yell and scream about this and say, Jerry Jones shouldn't be the owner of the Cowboys and all that. That ship has sailed. But let's just be honest about who the guy is. And let's also be honest about the fact that NFL fans, and certainly Cowboy fans, don't really care, because as long as the team is winning, that's really what it's all about, isn't it? And that doesn't mean you as a Cowboys fan is insensitive towards the needs of the African-American community or the fact that there is a lack of black coaches in the NFL. I don't think it means any of that. But I think we have to acknowledge, as sports fans, as an audience, as people listening to this show, as a talk show host, me who, I've benefited from white privilege. There's no question about that. That we as an audience and we as a people, we have to acknowledge that this is sort of what it is. Let me take Josh in Dallas, listening probably on 97.1 The Freak. Go ahead, Josh. Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. And like I said, in the case of LeBron, and I appreciate the call, I think LeBron is picking and choosing his battles. And I don't think he could have it both ways. Like I said, I want somebody to stand up and ask him a question. All right, if we're playing this game, LeBron, you want to be in this game, then tell us about what you think about China. Nick Hamilton on the other side from Sirius XM on the Cash-In, SportsMap Radio. Nah, no doubt. No doubt. Nah. He was quick with his thoughts, which was good. That I took the call late, man. We roll along on this Thursday edition of the show. Next hour, you'll get all your Thursday Night Football post-game stuff that you need. We're spending a lot of this hour talking about the Jerry Jones stuff and the LeBron James reaction to it last night. And like I said, I had steered clear of this story for the simple fact that I wanted to sort of hear some opinions on it, and not because it impacts my opinion, but I wanted to let the story breathe a little, because you knew there were going to be different layers to it and different elements to it. And then we got we had Jerry Jones' reaction, and there's been a lot of silence outside of the pundit world. And now you had LeBron James come out last night. We played the audio in the start of the hour about LeBron basically saying, why aren't you guys asking me about this? Like, he took it a point and said, stop. I want to talk about this, and nobody's asked me about it. You asked me about Kyrie, but you didn't ask me about this. So I thought it was a good opportunity to get Nick Hamilton on the show. Does a great job on a variety of things. Sirius XM, Nightcast Media, founder of Nightcast Media and a host on Sirius XM, to join us on the show tonight to talk a little bit about what LeBron said and sort of get into it a little bit. So I want to start with LeBron, because I got into it at the start of the hour. I love the fact that he brought this up. I'm glad he said, hey, why aren't you guys asking me about it? You ask me about Kyrie all the time. Why aren't you asking me about this? But at the same time, isn't it fair to then say, all right, LeBron, if you want us to make you the go-to guy on these things, where sports and social stuff and politics and all these things intersect, well, then I want him to stand up and say something about China. Because to me, it feels like he's cherry picking the things that matter most to him, or the things that are maybe safest for him to go after and talk about. Because as it relates to China, which has been an issue for a long time, go ask Daryl Morey, and where we are now, I haven't really heard him speak out on that. And some of it makes me wonder if it's because he has financial interests in how that situation plays out. So I'm cool with LeBron getting into the hypocrisy of asking him a million questions about Kyrie and none about Jerry Jones. But then, okay, if you're going to be that go-to guy, then you got to talk about everything.
Well, yes and no. What I mean by that is, first of all, I was glad that LeBron called it out on two fronts. One, because any other time they ask LeBron, especially him denouncing his cowboy status as of late, and then being able to segue into an opportunity to ask him about the Jerry Jones photo, especially when we've seen him take pictures with Jerry Jones in years prior. That would have been more apropos to ask him about that situation, but they didn't care. The same beat writers that you see are the main ones that get those questions in. And that's why I said even on my Instagram at Nick Hamilton LA, you can go check it out. I've also said the fact that this is why black media and minority media need to be in the room, and not just so much to be in the room, but to have our voices heard and to be able to have the ability to ask these type of questions. And it goes to show you that athletes, not just LeBron James, but other athletes across the sports landscape, want to be asked these types of questions, or at least be presented with these types of questions, which gives them an avenue to speak their points of view when it comes to these types of issues that are relative to the black community. And so when you talk about LeBron James mentioning about what is going on with that photo, he's absolutely right. And it's a travesty, but mainstream media doesn't seem to find a way when it comes to, or at least it appears that way, when it comes to black issues or issues of color, when it comes to our communities. But you're quick to, he said, ask about Kyrie, but nobody asked about the Jerry Jones photo, which was absolutely atrocious. I don't give a damn how old he is. If he was 14, 15, or 16, he participated in a mob that refused to desegregate a high school and stop young black youth from entering that high school, again, in concert with a federal crime, I might add, because the Brown versus the Board of Education passed in 1954, which desegregated schools and allowed other black kids in the South primarily to enter schools, and as you know about the Little Rock Nine and countless other cases that federal troops had to escort them into the schools due to violence from white mobs, like we saw in the photo in 1957 with Jerry Jones standing a while and just saying, hey, what he didn't try to do anything to stop it. I don't care if he was 14 or 15. What has he done up to that point that hasn't been to the betterment of the situation? I mean, when's the last time Jerry Jones hired a black coach? When's the last time Jerry Jones has done something where you didn't feel like, I mean, he was adamant about telling his players when Colin Kaepernick took the knee respectfully in protest, he told his players, if you want to be a Dallas Cowboy, we're not taking the knee. So I don't want to hear any excuses about his age, because he knew exactly what he was doing when he was 14, 15, or whatever age he was, just like what he's doing right now. And not only should LeBron be, or any other player should be asked these questions, but Jerry Jones should also be asked these questions. And also, too, I mean, let's not forget the Brett Favre situation. I mean, Brett Favre is weaseling his way out of a alleged fraudulent situation where it took money from the people in the state of Mississippi, one of the poorest states in the country.
Yeah, I talked about
what is primarily black. And those residents that are having issues with running water, as we saw with Deion Sanders at Jackson State, bringing up that issue as well. But also, too, you talk about what's going on in China, which is very unfortunate. I'm all for human rights, and right is right and wrong is wrong. But let's keep it in perspective. First and foremost, people here that look like me and LeBron and others don't get treated fairly. So that's what we have to continue to focus our viewpoints on. We can't worry about what goes on in another country per se, because that doesn't necessarily directly affect us in a particular way when it comes to how we're treated in this country. Again, as I said time and time again, I love this country. I love being in this country, but the ways that go about how we are treated as black folks and as people of color definitely has not changed a whole heck of a lot as it pertains to how we are perceived, how we're dealt with. I mean, like I said earlier, we have to be in the rooms, and you also have to look at not just the mainstream media that doesn't ask them the question, but you also have to look at the PR teams that are in charge of allowing people like myself and others to get in these rooms to be able to ask LeBron.
So are you saying, you've brought this up now twice, so I want to ask you a question, because you're in the locker rooms more than I am. You know, from time to time I'll get a credential and go to a game and stuff like that. You know, the last time I was regularly in a locker room was probably at when UConn, when I was in Hartford, and going to UConn Husky games at the XL Center. But outside of that, I'm not doing what you do and covering teams and covering games and things like that. So are you saying to me that there are not that black people are being kept out of those press rooms or out of those press conference settings? Or they're not being credentialed? Because you've mentioned it a couple of times now, so I just want to make sure I'm clear on what you're saying when you present that argument.
What I'm saying is not enough black media is being allowed being credentialed to cover these games. When I've gone to Laker games, I may have been one or two of us, maybe three, in those rooms. When I've gone out, like I said, the Clippers, as an example, I see a lot more, black media being allowed in those rooms and being allowed in those circles. And then when I'm going to other teams, when you go in the press room with the other teams, you see a little bit more black presence or, presence of color, whether that be, Latino, Asian, Pacific Islander and so forth. So I think what needs to happen is that we need to have opportunities. And that's all I've been saying this my entire career, just to have the opportunity to be in and then be called upon. I could tell you there's been a few times where I've raised my hand rather and looked to be called upon and got acknowledged and got skipped over. And so, I'm sure I'm not the only one that's happened to, which is very unfortunate. Because they'll come up with some cockamamie excuse, but at the same time, the point remains, we have stories to tell too. We're not going to talk about the same basketball stories or the same basketball questions. I'm not an X's and O's guy. I can talk about the sport. I have enough knowledge about the sport, but a lot of times I try to humanize the athlete or the entertainer or whomever. So a lot of times my stories may center around something I picked up off social media, or something that I picked up, in the news, in the news bulletin or something to that degree. Just like when LeBron and Maverick Carter became the owners of the Boston Red Sox, some time ago, nobody asked them about that question but me. And how I phrased it was because I knew LeBron was a huge baseball fan. I also knew he was a huge Ken Griffey Jr. fan. So I kind of integrated that and asked him about not just being an owner, but also then at that point, the Negro League records from that time frame had been entered into Major League Baseball finally. And so those records are now inside Major League Baseball. So I wanted to get his perspective on that as well. Being a black man, being a black athlete, and him being a baseball fan, just to get his perspective on that. And those are the kinds of topics that we want to talk about. I mean, there's a lot of things LeBron does off the court that can be talked about that are actually very interesting. I mean, the fact that he made a directorial debut in a film that I recently screened. The fact that he's doing, remaking certain movies that were classics. His philanthropy work.
He transcends. I mean, Nick, there's no doubt he transcends so many different categories.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
he is so much more than that. I will push back on one thing though, on the China issue, because, and you know the quote as well as I do, Martin Luther King said it: "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." So to me, I think he has to speak on that issue, and I think he's the one person in the league that could probably get away with it. There's not a lot of guys who have the clout and gravitas that he does, that even if people might push back and the league may not be happy about it and the Lakers may not be happy about it, he's the one guy. There aren't a lot of guys that are bigger than than the sum parts of the NBA. He's still one of those guys.
But he doesn't, he may have the influence, but he doesn't have the power. And that's the difference. And that's why he has to be very careful in speaking on topics of that magnitude. Because you have to be very, very careful, because you're going to be vilified either way. LeBron James, even speaking on issues in the United States, has been vilified at times.
Sure.
Imagine what that's going to be like across the seas. So you have to be very careful. And I understand LeBron's perspective, because you also have to remember this too. If he doesn't have the power to be able to say, okay, I can take the heat. And so you have to be very, very strategic in how you move, because not only is this about him, he has a family, he has business interests, he has a lot of people that work under him that he has to protect. And so you have to be very, very strategic and very careful not to be able to not to just lash out or just think emotionally. You have to think strategically, and I think that's what LeBron has been able to do, is think things through strategically. Say the things that need to be said, but not saying too much, and then moving forward. And that's what he's done a job of as it pertains to that type of situation.
All right, I got 2 minutes left. Let me ask you one total basketball question. Move away from this stuff for a second. How tricky a situation is it for the Clippers to try and navigate when you don't know when the hell Kawhi Leonard's playing and when he's not? Whether it's a knee, whether it's this bothering him, that bothering him. I don't know how an organization. It's got to be so frustrating for this organization and this fan base, and you know a lot about the Clippers, to sort of keep going through this on-again, off-again thing with Kawhi.
Yeah, it's got to be frustrating for Kawhi, too. I mean, this guy's a competitor. This guy, he wants to be out on the floor. It's not like he's just sitting back and resting up, and I know the reports come out, and that's the narrative that a lot of people like to paint, is that, oh, Kawhi got a loose hangnail, so he's not going to sit out for 6 months. That's not him. He wants to compete. Kawhi Leonard is a competitor. He's a two-time NBA champion. He's the countless accolades that he's been able to accomplish over the course of his career. And so when you look at Kawhi Leonard, I'm sure he's very frustrated. I'm sure his teammates are frustrated for him. But at the same time, fortunately for them, they've been through this situation as they went that year that Paul George put them on his shoulders and said, okay, I'm going to take you guys to the promised land, at least close to it, which was the Western Conference Finals. And they were within a game or two of getting to the NBA Finals, all on Paul George. So once Paul George returns and comes back healthy, they're going to have to be able to rally around and say, okay, we're going to have to take it to the next level with or without Kawhi. And I think they have one of the deepest teams in the NBA, and that's to their benefit. They have a great coach in Ty Lue. These guys will go to the wall for Ty Lue. And that's a great thing to have, especially in these times when both your superstars are nailed down with injuries. And so if Paul George returns, guys are going to come back. I think they're going to be a formidable team with or without Kawhi. Now, Kawhi can get them over the hump as far as them getting to the NBA Finals, because Kawhi's just that good of a player when he's healthy. And I think that's going to be the more question mark. How far can this Clipper team go without Kawhi Leonard? That's the bigger question.
Nick Hamilton, the founder of Nightcast Media, hosted SiriusXM. Thank you for a intelligent and nuanced conversation. Hopefully we get to do it again soon, sir. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, good sir. Talk to you soon, my buddy.
We'll come back, wrap up the hour next. Thanks, Nick. We Popeyes. Yeah, he's good. No, it's hard to find Popeyes out here. I'm just looking. Yeah. Popeyes. Let's see. Nearest Popeyes. Yeah, nearest Popeyes is 15 miles away. To 15 miles in Palm Desert. It's actually, I mean, it's doable. I have a friend out there. Popeyes, yeah. Once you get like 20 miles outside of Palm Springs, they're all over the place. But see, Palm Springs just doesn't want that stuff. No, they don't want cheap chains. Like, obviously, there's your McDonald's and stuff. Like, there's only one Burger King anywhere near here. There's a few McDonald's and stuff like that, but they don't want, like, those kind of chains. Well, because McDonald's is such a huge name. Look, I'll just come out and say it. I'll just come out and say all right, before we wrap up the hour, reminder to go and check out playfortickets.com. What? You haven't gone yet? What an opportunity. You're missing out on an opportunity. 2 tickets to the NFL's biggest game await you. The Super Pick 7 contest going on right now at playfortickets.com. It's free to sign up. It's free to join. It's free to make your picks. Just go to playfortickets.com, click the Super Pick 7 contest button, and every Sunday of the NFL season, including the playoffs, you got a chance to win, and it couldn't be easier. All you have to do is pick the correct side and totals on Sunday for 7 games. It's that simple. Use that football knowledge you got each week, and you got a chance to win 2 tickets to the NFL's biggest game, Glendale, Arizona, this February. $50,000 cash in your pocket to go along with it. Airfare, hotel. It's all right there for you. Free to play at playfortickets.com. 21 and over to play. Terms and conditions do apply. That's how we wrap up this second hour of the show. We got post-game coming from the Patriots and Bills. I wonder what Bill Belichick's going to say. Probably absolutely nothing. We're back with another hour of the Cash In on SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. We got to look at some tape and see what we did. We're going to have to look at some things and figure some stuff out. Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't, whatever it was today, it wasn't good enough. I got to be better. What?
You didn't see my message?
No.
There's no more coffee Coke at both Vons and Target.
No!
Give me an empty shelf where it was, but I have regular diet if you want.
I feel so unsatisfied.
You can have this. I forgot to
Thank you. Like a grown man going in for a quickie, I feel so unsatisfied. What did you bring me? It couldn't have been it could have been an iced chai.
This is more caffeine. You said you wanted caffeine.
It's
It's so
Starbucks.
sweet that I couldn't drink it.
I've been let down. There's no coffee Coke being delivered to the Page estate tonight. I am heartbroken, devastated, crestfallen. At least the dog's happy that he's back. He was so mad, this dog. He was not having it. What we did tonight wasn't good enough. It's got to be better.
Incredibly aggressive through the air.
2 interviews, and then I'd say probably the Jerry Jones stuff. I mean, the Deshaun Watson stuff was good too, though. Yeah, give me Deshaun, the 2 interviews, and do it in this order if you can. Do it Deshaun, Ferguson, Jerry Jones, Nick Hamilton, if you don't mind. I know it's a little bit of work.
Sometimes you're fortunate.
They sent Matt Patricia out to do the post-game press conference? Really?
Sometimes, it's like this. You got to do your job. Really good team, really good defense, obviously. Coach McDermott, Coach Frazier, really good coaches. And, a lot of it we didn't execute. Hats off to them. Like I said, a lot of really good players. But
I wonder if Belichick retires.
We got to go do our job, too.
Oh, there's Belichick.
David, what's the frustration level of the...
Boy, the YouTube for the Patriots stuff is just fantastic.
Just couldn't do enough tonight.
All right. I'll do Belichick. Easy show tonight. Easy squeezy lemon peasy. 2 guests last night. 2 guests tonight. Cutter. It's Qatar. You don't know how to say it. Yeah. Well, we weren't very good tonight. All facets of the game. We all got to do better. Coach better. Play better. Special teams, defense, offense. I told you my Bill Belichick story. Were you on the night that we had Kilborn on and I told that story? Where I said I went up to Belichick at a celebrity pro-am for the Travelers Championship, and I was like, "This is going to be the time I finally get to talk to Bill Belichick." We were hosting our show from there all week, So I ran down to stood right off the driving range. He walked off, and I walked up to him. Hey, Bill Belichick, Jason Page, host a show here in Afternoon Drive in Hartford for ESPN Radio. I said, love to get you on for a few minutes. And he paused, and he looked at me and went, no. Literally. That was it. No. It's true. It's a great point. Final hour of a Thursday/Friday edition of the Cash In on SportsMap Radio, the SportsMap Radio app. Been a busy show. Our 2 for 1 tonight is Nick Ferguson. We talked to him in the first hour. You'll hear him coming up in about 35 minutes. Some thoughts with him on the NFL, college football. I even texted him and said, tell me your Heisman pick. He still won't tell me. Come on, Nick. Give it up. Are they not allowed to tell people? Is the Heisman vote completely secret? Did I miss something? Heisman vote secret? Is it? I'm just trying to see. Yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised. I didn't think it was secret or anything like that. Instructing them to keep your ballots secret and not reveal them to the public. The Heisman Trust has said you're not allowed to. So, yeah, I guess, but I'm sure people secretly, but at the same time, I know for a fact that there's always stuff out there where people go and anonymously talk to these people who have votes. Absolutely. Of course they do. Oh, yes. Nick Ferguson, we talked to him in the first hour, so you get that coming up about 33 minutes from now. Also, thank you to Nick Hamilton for stopping by, from the founder of Nightcast Media, also a host over on Sirius XM, and talking about the LeBron James story. I was sitting here tonight saying, well, what do I want to do with this? And I said, Nick Hamilton would be somebody perfect to talk about. He's in L.A. He's kind of in the belly of the beast, really knows that market, and really could add some perspective, and he did just that. So I am grateful for Nick for stopping by the show. Tomorrow is Friday. That means we'll have Page's picks. By the way, Brian McDonald, I am 6-1 in my last 7 picks. We are now over 500, 25-23 on the year. Yes, cashing in indeed. Just saying. We'll hear from Bill Belichick coming up in a couple of minutes. Thoughts with him post-game after a Patriots loss. Soundly beaten by the Bills. We'll get to it all next as we continue on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Our sponsor, Omaha Steaks. But yeah, 25-23. We have battled back to get to 2 games over 500. I went 3-0 on my Thanksgiving Day picks. Yep. Nailed them all. Just the lines. Yeah, I did them on just the lines. And I got the backdoor cover on the Giants with the late garbage touchdown. I loved it. I was sitting there in San Francisco on the hotel room bed going, ha, 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 ha. Yeah. Thanks for being a part of it. The telephone number, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. As always, you can tweet at the show at the back page. Dallas, come on, Dallas. You can't lose to Detroit. They're so bad. Ugh. And of course, it's all, Luka can only do so much. 35, 5, and 10 tonight. 35 points, 5 rebounds, 10 assists for Luka. It's true. It's true. Luka's averaging, listen to this numbers. Luka's averaging 33.5 a game. He's averaging 8.8 rebounds a game and 8.6 assists. He's almost averaging a triple-double with 33.5 points a game. And I get it, it's only a quarter of the way through the season. But he didn't average a triple-double for the year, did he? He had a whole bunch of did he? Did he? Oh, okay. Did Westbrook average a triple? Oh, okay. All right. I'll believe you. I'll take your word for it. Yeah. But not like this. I mean, Doncic he's shooting 50.5%. He's shooting better than 50% from the field with a 33.5 point per game average. I mean, this is insane. Well, some would argue Luka's the only guy in Dallas right now, too. I mean, let's be fair. Yes. The starting five for this Dallas team. I mean, it's Dorian Finney-Smith, Tim Hardaway Jr., Dwight Powell, and Spencer Dinwiddie. That's the best you can surround this guy with. Yes. It's exactly what it sounds like. And LeBron still did things with that, though. I mean, that's what makes it all the more amazing, right? But I mean, Luka, man, I feel for him. I really do. I can't imagine how frustrating it's got to be. And like I said, I'm sitting here waiting. Not with like popcorn in hand, but how long is somebody going to accept that sort of situation? Unless you're just playing love of the game and making my money and I'm cool, but I can't imagine a guy being willing to be that patient in that sort of situation. I say it all the time, but I can't. Better than me, man. Better than me, because I'd be like, man, get me some help. Go and get me some help. Otherwise, I don't want to be here. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. 24-10, the Bills victorious over the New England Patriots in Thursday Night Football. Another snoozer. Al Michaels, they probably had to give him some, Dramamine to wake you up? Is that the stuff they give you to wake you up? Oh, Dramamine puts you to sleep? Maybe it's Vivarin that keeps you awake. It's the Vivarin that keeps you awake. He certainly would have needed it tonight, though, because this was another painful outing for the Patriots offensively. And, every time I turned around, somebody was in Mac Jones' face. And Von Miller wasn't even on the field. And every time I turned around, somebody was in Mac Jones' face. So as much as people are going to want to say, Mac Jones, not good enough. I mean, if the guy's constantly on his backside and constantly running for his life, I don't know what you expect him to do. Not to mention the fact that he didn't have anybody throw the football to. But here's Bill Belichick post-game. I can only imagine how much he's going to expound on this loss.
All right. Not really too much to say here. Just obviously just couldn't do enough tonight. Again, give Buffalo credit. They're a good football team. But we just couldn't do enough. So had some opportunities, but just nothing in particular. Just in general, not quite good enough in any area. Red area, offensively, they're making plays in the kicking game. So it's about the end of it.
Bill, Buffalo's last possession, about 2 minutes left. You have your timeouts. What went into the decision to not call timeouts to try to get the ball back and let Buffalo run the clock out there?
Talking about on the kneel downs? Yeah. I thought that was the best thing to do for our team. We went the other way in the Baltimore game. Lost Mac for 3 weeks. I mean, I don't really think that was worth it.
3 of 12 on third down offensively. It's been an area that has been a struggle all season. Well, what do you see there, why that's been such a struggle?
Yeah, combination of things.
And then the 2-minute offense at the end of the second quarter. Were you okay with the way the timeouts were used and the management in that situation?
We came up short on a third down, cost us another. We didn't pick it up on third down, so we had to use a timeout there. So, I mean, in the end, we should have had a field goal at the end of the half, and we ended up not getting it. So.
Bill, why do you think the offense is still struggling so much at this point in the season?
Yeah, well, I'll just say tonight, we just didn't, like I said, we just didn't do enough. Had some opportunities and weren't able to take advantage of them.
You guys had a lot of the same players in place last year as you do this year, and the offense was a lot more efficient. Anything specific that changed from last year to this year?
Yeah, I don't know. Just got through with the game here.
This is great. It really is.
Bill, given that he had done it in college, were you always planning on at some point trying to use Marcus Jones that way? Or was it something specific this week that you thought that he might be able to give you guys a spark?
Yeah, he's played on offense before.
That's it.
Bill, sorry, by the door over here. Are there serious changes you guys have to make on third down? I think you're 3 for 10 last week, 3 for 12 today.
Yeah, it's a combination of things. So there's a lot of things we could do better. Some of it's third down, some of it's first and second down.
Did you feel like you couldn't be real aggressive on first and second down based on some of the stuff you guys had going on your offensive line?
We were definitely working around some things there. But yeah, we just need to do a better job.
Would you consider the struggles on offense more of a play calling issue or an execution issue?
Yeah, well, we just need to do a better job overall.
Bill, on the Allen pass to Gabe Davis, the touchdown pass, where it looked like he was maybe going to go out of bounds, Wilson was pursuing him on that. Did you think that he was out of bounds when he threw that? It looked like some guys had kind of stopped playing. I don't know what you saw.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really see it.
It's just, I mean, it's at this point, it's almost. All right. Enough. I can't do any more of this. I mean, that is a masterclass in I don't want to talk to any of you. And can I also ask this question, not to be insulting, but it's going to be? Whenever anybody says not to be insulting, it means they're about to be insulting, by the way. with all due respect means I'm about to disrespect you. Did you hear some of the questions? Was it like high school radio stations there being credentialed? Because it was like, Mr. Belichick, would you tell? One guy literally asked 3 questions in a row, and Bill was like, I don't want to talk to you. I have nothing to say. We'll have to do some things. It's a combination of things. I'll do some things better. He's still talking, by the way. No, nothing. Say the most words. Yeah. I just feel bad for those reporters, man. It's got to be one of the most futile things in the world. Right, Bill? Right, Bill?
Stay in the game.
Just listen. Just gotta do some things. Yeah. Gotta. What do we do? Yeah.
All right.
All right. He's like, I'm gone.
Did it feel like the Bills maybe had a beat on what you guys were trying to do on early down? It just felt like a lot of short passing screens into the flat. Did they get a jump on that?
You have to ask on that.
Do you think it's hard to keep players from getting frustrated against an offense like Buffalo when you're not incredibly aggressive through the air?
What players are you talking about?
I can't. I just can't. I don't know what place you're talking about. Oh, man. That was, you know what? That was worth it. That was so worth it. Bill just stormed off the podium. He's like, I'm done. It's like, stop talking to me. Yes. You know he can talk. Yes. Nope. Yeah, you just wonder how much of this is a combination of the players around Mac Jones and Mac Jones himself. And those are the tough decisions that organizations have to make. I mean, look, you looked at Mac Jones, and somebody asked, I think, a really perfect question. And that is, you had a lot of the same players on your team last year, and your offense was better than this. A defensive coordinator calling plays. Yeah. Mac Jones tonight, 22 of 36 for 195 yards and a touchdown in the loss. Josh Allen on the other side, 22 of 33 for 223. He had 2 touchdowns throwing in the game. He was sacked twice. I mean, Mac Jones was, it says Mac Jones was only sacked once, but every time I looked, there was a hand in his face. And it obviously disrupted anything he was going to do in the passing game. And it was a lot of screens and short dump offs and things like that. He can't get anything down the field because he didn't have enough time to throw the football. And that's obviously yes, 6 for 24. Yeah, 6 for 24. And the Patriots right now, because of their record, they're not going to be in a position to even probably get to the top of the draft, which, you know, that's going to be a problem too. So if you believe that Mac Jones isn't your guy, you're going to have to figure out who it is. I saw somebody wrote some obscene story, some ridiculous story, not obscene, obscenely ridiculous maybe. And it was basically, here's the scenario about how Tom Brady could wind up back in New England next season. I'm like, are you kidding? After he's been freed from the bonds of the restrictions of being in that Patriots organization and playing for Bill Belichick, you think he's going to go back to that? You're nuts. He ain't finishing his career in New England. We'll come back and I was going to say, oh my God, I'm losing my mind. I won't even tell you what I was going to say. We'll come back. More post-game sound as we continue in this final hour of the Cash-In. I'm Jason Page at SportsMap Radio. No, I was about to say we'll come back and wrap things up. Jiminy crickets. It's bonkers. Of course, Belmer would make a promo of Brian Kenny saying this. All the things I talked about with Brian Kenny in that interview, it had to be Justin Verlander. Yeah. Wow, Mac Jones this year, 6 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That's it. His QBR is 28th in the league. Oh, God, it's so bad. Boom, 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 boom. Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Friday. Ba-ba-da-ba-da. Thank God it's Friday. 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 Aaron Judge. Wow. Somebody's selling an Aaron Judge. Where did it go? Oh, tweet's not available. Somebody supposedly had an Aaron Judge 1 of 1 for $6,000 posted online. Yeah. I haven't been buying anything. Can't afford it. I've already seen a bunch of those superimposed shots. It's always more interesting to hear from the losing team in these Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football post games that we play on the show. And just for the comedic value of Bill Belichick. I mean, if you were hoping to get information, I'm sure you were sorely disappointed and just listening to it going, really? They're playing this? But it's just pure comedic value. And, you know, I can admit that I'm trying to entertain you a little bit. And I mean, who couldn't be entertained by Bill Belichick going, we have to do some things better. We'll go and look at the tape. I don't know. I was watching the game. Yeah. We were just talking about Mac Jones for the season has thrown, and I think he missed, 1 game, 2 games? 1,768 yards passing. That's 26th in the league. 6 touchdowns. That's tied for 30th in the league. And 7 interceptions. Tied for 18th in the league. His QBR, 35.8. That's 28th in the league. I mean, it's hard to get around it. But again, you have to ask, are they putting him in the best possible position to succeed when Matt Patricia is essentially your de facto offensive coordinator? And Bill Belichick's trying to, smartest guy in the room syndrome. I'm going to do some different things. We're not going to have an offensive coordinator. Well, Matt Patricia's going to be it. Nobody really has any titles. And it works for a little while. And then the talent deficiency starts to play into it. I mean, man, I wonder. I mean, I've talked about this before, him trying to get to Don Shula's once thought of as unbreakable wins record. Is he gonna hang around with a bunch of crappy teams like this just to get to Don Shula's number? I mean, I guess if you've coached this long, you might as well finish the deal and just get there and be damned how it looks. But it's gonna be rough sledding to try and get to that number when you sort of look at the division they're in and what's left for him. He's at 3.8. He is at 296 right now. Don Shula is at 328. Is this right? Is this starting the season? I thought he already passed. I thought he had already passed George Hallis. Maybe not. I'll have to look. Anybody know? No? Anybody help me? Somebody throw me a lifeline here. NFL coaching wins, leaders. Make sure I have it right. Shula is at... Internet's failing me. Help me out here, somebody. No, I'm on my own. I can't find the numbers. I'm seeing like conflicting numbers on this stuff. Yeah, I guess it is 290. So I guess Shula 328, Hallis 318, and Bill Belichick 290. Is that right? That's what I've got in front of me. That's what everything I'm looking at says that. All right, here it is. So Shula 328, Hallis 318, Belichick 296. So you're talking about a scenario where he's 32 wins behind Don Shula. I don't know if he's getting there. He's going to have to coach 3 or 4 more years. And we're 4 years. That still is an average of 8 wins a year, and there is 17 games a season now, which does help. But he's 70 years old. Is he going to coach till he's 75? I mean, he's not. We're not. It's almost like he's not Pete Carroll. You know what I mean? He's not running around on the sidelines like Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's 71. Yeah. Carroll's 71 is still out there. So, I mean, I don't know if he's getting there now. I really don't. You're going to coach 3-4 more years? Do you want to be the guy that gets there limping to the finish line where everybody looks and says, yeah, the reason you're still coaching is just to break the record? I don't know. I wonder how much that sort of that perception of him matters. I don't get the sense he really cares what people think, but I think deep down everybody cares what people think. Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah, there's something to be said for that. We'll see. We'll see if he hangs around to try and get to that magic number. I'm kind of skeptical as to whether or not he tries to get to that number. Before we get to Nick Ferguson, quick update on a story we talked about on the show last night, and it's a pretty disturbing one. John Kitna's kid, Jalen Kitna, released from jail today on $80,000 bond after he was arrested on 5 child pornography charges. And they had a 75-minute appearance in court. And John Kitna was there with his wife. And they basically came up to speak out and say, look, we'll take him under our wing and watch him. So, don't keep him in jail while we're, adjudicating this case. I don't even feel comfortable reading the details that were released in court today because it's very disturbing. And again, as somebody who's been a victim of sexual assault as a child, there could be other people out there, and I want to be cognizant of that and sensitive to that because it is sort of a PTSD thing that we deal with for people who have suffered through this. But if you want to go see the details of it, it's even more disturbing than what we were reporting on the show last night in terms of what type of material he was in possession of. And it doesn't look good. So we'll see how they adjudicate the case, whether he pleads it out, whether he winds up. They were trying to make the idea. His attorneys were trying to say, well, 3 images could be considered child erotica instead of child porn. When those are the types of angles you're trying to take for your client, you're screwed. I mean, this kid's life is basically over at 19 as a result of this. It's sad. It's a terrible story. We're back with Nick Ferguson on the other side. Talk NFL and college football next on the Cash In. All right, I got the interview on my side. Bum bum ba-dum bum. Womp 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 womp. Womp 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 womp. Yeah, dude. I looked at the story. One of the images shared by Kitna was of a prepubescent girl being sexually abused by a man. The phrase "so young junior" was written on that picture, and another of a pubescent girl. Kitna told a detective he thought the pictures were legal because he found them online. Then they searched his phone, found 3 more images of 2 nude pubescent girls in the shower. Those 3 images were saved to his cell phone last December, police said. So he obviously kept them on there, which is creepy unto itself. The report did not estimate the ages of the girls. But his attorney's like, well, he should be released with no monetary bond, and suggested those 3 images could be considered child erotica instead of child porn. Wow. Sure. Somebody's... Come on, man. Be with us on this Thursday edition of the show. I am Jason Page. I'd say this guy is one of my favorite guys we bring on the show every week. And that's not just like empty rhetoric. He knows I love him. I was just trash talking him a little before we came on to... You with us on this Thursday edition of the show. I am Jason Page. I'd say this guy is one of my favorite guys we bring on the show every week. And that's not just like empty rhetoric. He knows I love him. I was just trash talking him a little before we came on to start the segment. He is the one and only Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast, who joins us on the show. I said Baltimore is frauds, and they are. They cannot. How am I supposed to take a team seriously in the postseason when they can't even? Four times this year they've blown fourth quarter leads.
Well, I'll tell you this: the problem with Baltimore is the fact that they cannot finish. and they're a very talented team offensively. Defensively, maybe not so much, but it's about finishing, ball games, and it is demoralizing when you know that you have a lead, and then all of a sudden you blow that lead in the fourth quarter, the third quarter, because somehow it's due to lack of production, focus, or play calling. But this still is a playoff caliber Baltimore Ravens team. Now, we're not saying as though they're a number one seed, but they should be a team that's able to get into the playoffs and make some noise.
Yeah, I'm wondering now if they win that division, since he's coming on strong and starting to play some good football too. I want to get your thoughts on this Denver situation, because a lot's happened since we last talked. Obviously, the team just keeps losing. You get the sense at this point that Nathaniel Hackett's probably lost some of this team, but you also have to wonder now with these reports about Russell Wilson. Sierra throws a birthday party, invites the whole team, only half of it shows up. I mean, is that uncommon? I mean, would literally the entire team show up for a quarterback's birthday party? Am I nuts?
It's utterly ridiculous. And to think that individuals, both locally and nationally, are grasping for straws at any and everything that they can kind of get their hands off as a way to kind of break this team apart. But no, when in any given party that's thrown as far as if it's known or even if it's a surprise, the chances that every single player on that team is going to arrive, that's a fallacy. They're not. When I played for the Denver Broncos, Jay Plummer had a party at his house. I didn't go. I didn't go because I didn't like Jake Plummer. Just I didn't feel like driving at night. So I decided to stay home, wished him a happy birthday at practice, but it's not a big deal. But when you're losing games and you're a team like Broncos where the expectations were so high with the acquisition of Russell Wilson, then everyone is going to, take shots at you. Everyone wants their pound of flesh. And first it was, well, during the bye week, Russ is in Cabo. What is he doing in Cabo? The team isn't doing well. But now it's, oh, well, only half his teammates came to his birthday party. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, there are 60 players on the Broncos team. That means maybe 30, 35 guys came. I call that a great turnout.
I do too, but tell the truth. You and Snake weren't buddies, huh? That's why you didn't go. You didn't like Snake. Come on, tell the truth. You didn't like Snake, so that's why you didn't go. It's all right. I won't tell him.
No, Snake is my guy, but I didn't feel like going out that night. I wanted to stay home. I wanted to study my play. So hey, don't hold that against me. I love him like he a brother.
All right. So, at this point for Denver, with what we've watched with this team and how this whole thing is sort of disintegrated, I'll still go back and say, by the way, if Nathaniel Hackett manages game number 1 and that Russell Wilson, the decision to basically go for a 1,000,000-yard kick instead of letting Russell Wilson try to win the game a little bit with his arm there, I still say this entire season may have wound up different if they had found a way to win that game. I still will believe that thing set the tone for how this whole thing has gone the rest of the way. Am I nuts?
No, you're not nuts. And it's not just that the first game of the season. I know the Broncos have taken a lot of shots for not scoring inside the red zone. And this offense at times have stalled, especially in the third quarter coming out of halftime. But they've had, they've shown their ability to move the ball down the field on most of the defensive units that they played thus far this season, but there's always some kind of mishap. Someone jumps offside, someone, gets beat on a block, there's a batted pass, there's a penalty that negates, a touchdown and takes it off the board. Let's look at this past Sunday against the Carolina Panthers. The Broncos are in scoring position. They're like on the 5-yard line. There's a run play off to the right side to Latavius Murray. Maybe he gets down to the 1-inch line. Maybe he punches it in. Greg Dulcich is beat in the inside, and also Eric Saubert on the opposite side where the ball is going to. He's beaten, and he's beaten by, I think it was Burns, right? Brian Burns beats him in the inside, and they're able to stop Latavius Murray short of the goal line. Those were the type of disastrous plays. We just talked about Baltimore and their inability to finish. If there was ever a stat in the NFL that we needed, was the teams that showed the highest percentage of finishing drives and finishing games. And if that was the case, the Broncos would be one, and the Baltimore Ravens would be too. And guess what? They play each other on Sunday.
It's great. Nick Ferguson, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast, is our guest on the Cash in our 2-for-1 tonight, SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. Let me ask you something. I'm going to talk more at length about this next hour and with Nick Hamilton, who's joining us from Los Angeles, because LeBron James talked about it. From a player standpoint, and I don't know if you ever had to deal with something of this magnitude. So the answer, you may not even be able to give the cogent answer you would want to give. But does something like this Jerry Jones thing, does this permeate the locker room in any way? This story about him when he was 14 years old in a crowd, especially in a locker room where you're talking about a largely black presence in that locker room. Are you able to kind of articulate whether or not something like that permeates a locker room?
Yeah, it does, because we're living in different times. Like when I played, there were certain things that were considered to be off limits or out of bounds that, we didn't really talk about. We might have talked about outside the locker room, but inside the locker room collectively, we didn't. But this is a different day and age. Everyone has a cell phone. Social media runs rampant. Everyone wants their 15 seconds of fame. And then looking at the situation with Kyrie, no matter what side of the fence that you stand on, what LeBron was basically saying, how is it okay for the media to come out and really talk about what happened with Kyrie and just really blow it up? But with the Jerry Jones thing, not so much. So I understand what LeBron was trying to get across, and he realizes that he has a platform. And let's be totally honest. When you look at the NFL and the NBA, those guys have guaranteed contracts. They make more money, and they're perceived to be more high-profile players than that of the NFL players. And, oh, by the way, that they have a little more say-so in their league than players have in the NFL. So a lot of individuals looking at LeBron James, fair or not, to kind of carry, that Bill Russell torch, that Jim Brown torch of saying, okay, well, if there's something that's happening wrong and properly in society, we want our African-American athletes to stand up, because if you guys don't stand up, then everyone's just kind of going to breeze over it. So I thought it was very interesting that LeBron decided to speak out about that and ask the media, hey, how come you guys are not asking me a question about this when you ask me a question about that? So it does raise a interesting conversation, and I'm sure we're not the only ones having this conversation or talking about the topic.
You see Aaron Rodgers in the news that he's probably going to play this week. He's dealing with a whole bunch of injuries, but says he's open to the idea of Jordan Love, if this team is eliminated from playoff contention, essentially, which a loss this week basically does. I mean, they're basically out of it now, but it's a lot more harder to make the argument from a math standpoint. Math does matter. If they lose this week and Aaron Rodgers says, you know what, I'm open to the idea of Jordan Love, playing for the rest of the season. How did that strike you? For a guy like Rodgers who's always like, I'm a gamer, I want to play. And I'm literally the day before he had just said to Pat McAfee, if I can play, if I'm healthy, I want to play. What did you make of that?
Well, for me, he is a gamer. And regardless of what you think about Aaron Rodgers as a person, he's one hell of a player. And don't forget, he once upon a time, not too long ago, he said to the Chicago Bears fans that I own you. So he wants to play in the game where he can play against the Chicago Bears team that's kind of beat up on both sides of the ball and put up those numbers and utter that same thing. But let's be totally honest. Jordan Love will never get an opportunity to play in Green Bay as long as Aaron Rodgers is there. And watching him on that first drive, I was like, wow. I mean, it would be great for Matt LaFleur to tell Aaron Rodgers, hey, listen, we want to get a chance to look at this kid that's not a preseason action, but live action, so we can really determine if he has the goods or not. But Aaron being Aaron, hey, he's like, look, man, I'm playing. Now, we still have yet to see if he's going to play, but, in the idea of knowing Aaron Rodgers and the type of player that he is, if he can go out there and play and beat up on the Chicago Bears team, he wants to be in a uniform.
Talking with Nick Ferguson, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast. Didn't you tell me at the beginning of the year you got a Heisman vote?
Yes, I do.
Who are you voting for?
I can't tell you that.
What do you mean? Of course you can tell me that. It's just you and me talking.
No, it's not. It's me, you, and everyone else that's listening. See? Come on now. Come on, Jason. I mean, I love having my Heisman vote. Here's what I can tell you.
Okay.
You know, someone's going to win.
Look at you, funny McFunny man. Look at you. What do you when you look at the college football playoff right now? I don't ever really talk to you about college football, but you have a Heisman vote, so I know you're following it. When you look at the playoff right now, how surprised are you, based on where we were when like the first four came out, that we're in a spot now where like USC is in the top four?
Well, I love it, man. It just kind of reminds me of like throwback football when teams like Nebraska, USC, Georgia, Florida, all those teams were in the conversation. And it's been a while, let's be totally honest, whether you like Pac-12 football or not. It's been a while since USC has been mentioned, but it says a lot about Caleb Williams, but more importantly, about Lincoln Riley. Everything that USC did to acquire him from Oklahoma, it's actually paying off. And it's starting to look like what USC looked like when Pete Carroll was there, when Snoop Dogg and every Hollywood star was on the sideline. So USC football is now coming back. And as a football fan, I like to see that. Now, here's my only question. There's a big game, between USC and Utah, and USC already lost to Utah early in the season, giving them that one loss. What happens if USC were to lose? Now we're talking about, well, Georgia and all that conversation, Alabama and two SEC schools getting in. For me, I don't subscribe to that idea that, hey, the SEC is the best conference in college football, and even a two-loss SEC team should be in there over a one-loss team from another conference. I don't subscribe to that because I don't think it's fair, right? You lost, you have two losses, they have one, they should get in. And a couple of years ago, TCU, they were left out. But now I'm hoping that TCU can be the Cincinnati Bearcats of this season, go undefeated and get into the contest and actually do well, right? I want to see those teams do well because I'm just tired of this Southeastern Conference narrative that, hey, they're just one step below the NFL. But when you really think about what the SEC is, Jason, it's only two teams, Georgia and Alabama. Who else? Because LSU had their chance, but they blew it when they lost to Texas A&M.
It's true.
Now, could they mess things up for Georgia when they play them in the SEC championship? I would love, as a Georgia Tech guy, I would love to see that.
I'm out of time. I wanted to ask you about Deion Sanders. I'll have to wait. Oh, well. That is Nick Ferguson, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast from Georgia Tech. Always good to talk. Always good to talk to you, my man. I'm mad you wouldn't make news on the show and tell me who your Heisman vote was, but I'll forgive you and you can come on anytime.
I told you someone's going to win. Right? I did tell you that.
Love you, Nick. Be well, man.
All right, you too.
All right. We'll come back, wrap up the hour next. can't believe tomorrow's Friday already. I'm going to try and get a World Cup guest. Brian's pitched somebody to me, and I'm like, It's not no, but look. Anything I say is going to get me in trouble. I'm such a jerk. I'm just about to start insulting people. It's just like I've only been here a few months. Oh wait. I don't know. I was trying to hit the home run. That's the problem. I'm swinging for the fences, and I should just take the single up. It's like the shift is on, and I could just lay a bunt down the third baseline and walk to first base, and instead I'm busy trying to hit home runs when a single will do. Just need to get a runner on base. I'm down 2 runs, nobody's on base, and I'm trying to hit a home run. That's the problem. I really should just be laying the bunt down. Maybe I will. We'll talk tomorrow. Yeah, I stink. What am I going to do? Paige's picks tomorrow. I am 25-23 on the season. We are officially over 500 on those. We did not do a live bet tonight, so that means we couldn't lose, which was good because I've been sucky at those lately. It's funny. I'm better at picking NFL games lately, and now I'm not doing as well in live betting. I don't know. We'll do it again. Thank you, Brian McDonald, producer, engineer extraordinaire back in Houston. We're back with you tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. I'm Jason Page. Thanks for tuning into the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Bye! Bry Guy, thank you. You've got the stuff. I'll text you tomorrow. Cool. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Be well, my man. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right. That wraps it up for a Thursday night. Thank you to those of you that watched. Thank you to those of you that listened. We're back at it one more time tomorrow. If you miss any of the show, always check out the Cash In podcast. If you're looking for great steaks, Omaha Steaks, use my promo code CASHIN at checkout for $30 off. Minimum order is required. Make sure and go get that. Go get that steak. Go get that beef. That's what I'm saying. We've already tried some of it here at the house. It's so good. OmahaSteaks.com, promo code CASHIN at checkout. $30 off your next order. So go and do that. All right, that's it for us tonight. I'll see you back here on Friday night. Everybody have a great night. Be safe. I'll see you later. Bye.